You're listening to the Zach Lowe Show presented by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook is the best place to bet on the NBA because not only does FanDuel have all your favorite player props, but now you can even check out stats and recent performance trends right in the app before you make your picks. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today to get in on the action. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the numerous resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 or over and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. All right, coming up on a loaded edition of the Zach Lowe Show, Rob Mahoney for the first time. I'm such a longtime fan. We're hitting everything. The Lakers on the brink, the Aaron Gordon buzzer beater, the Tim Hardaway Jr. non-call, Celtics Magic physicality, looking ahead to the next round. All coming up on an NBA playoffs edition of the Zach Lowe Show. Welcome to the Zach Lowe Show on a Monday morning, Eastern Standard Time. Oh my God. What a weekend. Rob Mahoney, first time I've ever had you on, an absolute thrill. I've been a fan for a long time. 1/3 of the group chat bros that is maybe sneakily become my favorite NBA podcast that exists. I even watch it now. I'm like a modern person watching it now. What a weekend. I don't even know where to start. We had an all-time great buzzer beater. Like literally we've never seen it before. We've had non-calls that are going to infuriate multiple teams, and the last 2-minute reports will be eagerly anticipated. We had copious fights and scrums and near fights and spiciness, a couple of injury scares, and then sadly the place we have to start, one massive, what appears to be a massive injury to Damian Lillard, who left Game 4 of the Bucks-Pacers series with what appears to be a torn Achilles. I mean, look, it obviously sucks. Damian Lillard is almost 35 years old. If this is indeed a torn Achilles, any discussion of it has to start with just Damian Lillard, the human being who built a legacy of greatness in Portland, got traded kind of against his will to Milwaukee, tried to make the best of it, came back very quickly from a blood clot issue to play in these playoffs. Didn't look like himself, not surprisingly. Looked like he got tired at the end of games. Didn't impact the series the way that you would expect prime Damian Lillard to impact it. And now, after a couple of games back, suffers one of the most devastating injuries in sports, a 35-year-old small guard. This isn't Kevin Durant. This isn't a dude who's 7 feet tall, who can just bank on, worst case for me is I can just be like Dirk Nowitzki, old Dirk, just raining jump shots. We don't know 100% certainty. Everyone, all the comments last night were pessimistic. We're going to get to the future and what it means, but this is a guy, both of us our professional careers kind of overlap almost exactly with Damian Lillard's entry from Weber State into the NBA. I remember watching him at Summer League, trying to pick apart his game, not pick apart, but like, oh my gosh, something's interesting here. We all know, there ain't too many players with 2 series-winning walk-off shots in the history of the NBA. Just gut reaction.
I think my gut reaction is kind of aligned with Dame's, which is after this injury happened and he just sort of sat there with it. And, is that resignation? Is that acceptance? I don't know what he's going through in that particular moment, but when a player like Damian Lillard goes down and kind of stays down, and particularly when he goes down grabbing the back of that ankle, we all know what that means. Like we all know what he's reaching for, and we all know kind of like what he is feeling in that moment, in the sense that we have seen it before. I really desperately hope that this is not it for Damian Lillard, but I want to be really clear that like even if Damian Lillard comes back and plays NBA basketball again, this injury is going to define the end game of his career. Like we are rounding a bend of a kind, whether he plays another game or not. And that in itself sucks to say. And it sucks for Dame, obviously. It sucks for Bucks fans who've invested in this team and for this version of the Bucks, and certainly for the future of the Bucks, as you alluded to. We can talk about that. But ultimately, like, I am a regular season basketball enthusiast. I have an incredible soft spot in my heart for the players who never quite make it to the mountaintop, but play the game on their terms with a distinct style And if this is it for Dame, or more or less it for Dame, and we can save the full eulogizing for another day, but if this is kind of it, there are worse ways to make a career than being an ice-cold killer for more than a decade and a beloved star who staked his claim to a franchise, who made an incredible run for himself, who will go down as one of the greatest shooters to ever live and just one of the coolest guards and coolest players of his era. I fucking love watching Damian Lillard play basketball. So from that perspective alone, I am bummed personally to not get to do that for at least the foreseeable future.
It's one of the reasons what you said about regular season basketball enthusiast. I might change my social media bio to that. It's one of the reasons that one of my favorite random NBA teams of all time is the 2018-19 Blazers, who come off an absolute humiliation sweep at the hands of Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday the year before, where Drew Holiday just single-handed turns into like Michael Jordan plus Scottie Pippen for the entire series and destroys the Blazers.
Yeah, embarrass those guys, really.
In a series that you could look at and say, well, okay, that's you're never the same after that. You got to make some trades. You got to fire some people. And the Blazers didn't. They held the fort. They rebound next year, and they make the Western Conference Finals. This is the bye-bye year against Oklahoma City when Dame makes one of the all-time great shots, and then they beat Denver in a 7-game slugfest in the next round. And people kind of poo-poo that conference finals run because they got smoked by the Warriors in the conference finals, totally overmatched. They got the bracket broke right for them. They got some health luck, although they suffered their own health injuries, health issues. Nurkic was hurt for, I think, in that entire playoff run for them. And Cantor, that was like the Ennis Cantor playoffs. You know what? I've said this many times before. Ask the LA Clippers about how easy it is to make a conference finals. Ask a bunch of these. Ask the Charlotte Hornets haven't won a playoff series in like 1,000 years. Never poo-poo. Yeah, brackets break right. You get some luck. That's fine. A lot of teams are never able to put themselves in any kind of position to take advantage of that kind of luck. I love that team. I've always loved Dame. If you look back at my MVP ballots over the years, I always have him like a spot or two above consensus. And he's been pretty open about how rough the transition to Milwaukee was for him personally.
Yeah.
I think he bought in. The chemistry with Giannis just kind of never got to the point where we all thought it would be so easy for them on the pick and roll, and we can talk about that trade and revisit it. And I didn't think they were going to win this series with Dame, without Dame. I just didn't think they were good enough. But this is just, for NBA diehards who are up watching Blazers Jazz at 11:30 Eastern time, he's a beloved player. And he's a beloved leader, and it just sucks.
I mean, he's the kind of player who makes that sort of basketball, and really those sorts of teams that you're talking about mean something. There are lots of teams, frankly, even those who have gone on conference finals runs, who just like get lost in time, who get lost even within the cities that they play for, maybe because those cities have outsized championship level success, and so some of the other years feel like also rans. I'm going to remember Damian Lillard forever as a basketball player. And I'm going to remember some of those Blazers teams forever. And certainly the people of Portland will in particular, like his relationship with that city and with that franchise. He's basically synonymous. He's going to go down as the greatest Blazer ever. It's a shame that he's not going to go down as a great Buck particularly. But that's the reality of where he was at this stage of his career. And as you said, the fact that it was not the destination he picked, but it's one that he tried to make the best of basketball wise. For me, that was one of those trades that I would make it again, for the record, if I'm in Milwaukee's position. Like, I understand the logic of it. I understand their urgency in trying to find that kind of offensive help. Maybe you settle Drew Holiday to another destination that is not going to be Portland so that he doesn't end up in Boston. Maybe that's the great do-over part of that trade. But pairing a shooter with the firepower of Damian Lillard with Giannis, I will always understand the logic of that, even though on the court, as you said, they never quite found it. They got better over time, and I think maybe got better in a way where they never fully got the credit for it, right? It was kind of incremental, slow building progress for them in terms of their pick and roll chemistry. They did find something that worked, just not something that worked at a high enough level to really contend in the East.
Look, there are a lot of moves you can knock the Bucks of the last 6 to 7 years over.
Certainly.
I always go back to one of the stupid podcast things that I was happiest about in my retrospective of looking back was squeezing in a rant about Dante DiVincenzo for Serge Ibaka at the end of whatever trade deadline podcast that was, is like, I just don't understand. Everybody liked that trade, and I was for the Bucks, and I was like, has anyone watched Serge Ibaka? Like, I just don't trade wing for washed up big ever, not one time. The draft picks that were missed, the Kuzma trade is obviously a disaster, including a draft, which included one of the only draft picks that who knows, it may end up being a hit for the Bucks, AJ Johnson. I'm with you on the Dame trade. I will defend it until the end. Now, you could say, did they overreact to the Miami series in which they just fell apart completely? Giannis missed most of the series. Bud did not cover himself in glory in that series. They fire Bud. Butler bullies Drew Holiday, and it feels to them like the end of the road for this team. Like, we just don't have enough offense. And they make this trade, and they get Giannis then to sign an extension a month later, which in itself is a huge victory for that trade. Look, it hasn't worked. And one of the reasons it didn't work, as you said, is they couldn't control Drew Holiday's destination, and it ended up being a worst case scenario for them. Another reason it didn't work is that Dame is 34 and got older a little faster than I think we expected.
Yeah.
Another reason it didn't work is that the Dame Giannis pick and roll never turned into the Steph Draymond 2.0, except the Draymond in this is a 7-foot monster who can lob dunk everything. Right. I don't know why it didn't. I suspect part of the reason why is that Giannis didn't want to set 40 screens a game, and that's fine. He's above that he is above that. Another reason it didn't work is that teams just sold out on it from preseason game one. It was clear, like, Brook Lopez, you're going to be allowed to shoot. Whoever, you're going to be allowed to shoot. Another reason the trade didn't work is part of the logic, and I echoed this logic, was, you hurt your defense by trading Drew Holiday, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Your base defense is a drop back scheme. Yep. That doesn't work if the guy pursuing the ball handler isn't hounding that guy from behind and challenging all those shots and making all those looks extra difficult. But who are we kidding? If you have Giannis and Brook Lopez, you have the foundation of an elite defense for the next couple of years. And Brook Lopez got benched in this series against Indiana. He was too slow for the series, and that didn't hold up either. And it's tempting to look back and say, what happens if they don't make the Dame trade? Are we just in the same spot anyway, given what has happened to Chris Middleton's career? But I guess the difference would be you're in the same spot, but let's say you've stood pat. You still have all the draft picks that you no longer have. You still have the ability to trade Drew Holiday, which you no longer have. Now, you don't have the ability to trade Damian Lillard, which was the last bullet left in the can we salvage this thing around Giannis. And nobody wants to have this conversation. I don't want to have this conversation. You don't want to have this conversation.
Definitely not.
Opposing teams who I contacted last night who would theoretically be Giannis suitors already do not want to have this conversation. They're in mourning too. It is unfortunately unavoidable just to say this. They can't trade Dame. That pivot is gone. This team cannot win with Giannis. There is no path to them winning big in the playoffs anymore. They do not control their draft pick through 2030, so they cannot tank. And there just isn't enough here. There's no path to a championship team. And everyone understands that. The Bucks understand that. Giannis surely must understand that. And all that's left to do now is for Giannis and the Bucks, maybe individually, maybe in conjunction, but ultimately, no matter what happens, it's going to be up to Giannis to decide what to do with that reality. Yeah. Do we sit in it and be a one-team star forever and do our best, and that's cool, and hope there's some miraculous set of events that delivers some talent here that I just could not possibly foresee, or do we not? And that's just where we are. I don't want to get into like the fake trades, but look, the uncomfortable reality is there is no path to this team winning in the next 3 or 4 years. They don't control their draft picks. There's just nothing they can do. And it's now just up to Giannis to sit with that and decide his career.
And from that perspective, it's just impossible to begrudge him basically whatever he wants, right? He has been with this team now for going on a decade. I think he has the right to make that call, to look around and say, I'm one of the best players in the world, even still, maybe the third best player in the league, if not better than that.
And also, you know what they can never take away? No one can ever take away the ring.
That hardware, baby.
They got a ring. Drew got a ring. Everything after that has not gone great. but they got a championship.
Yes.
Never, ever, ever nitpick the draft picks, nitpick the trades, whatever. They got a championship. It's the whole reason we do this, and they got one. Anyway, sorry.
But everything that went into that championship, as you alluded to, is mostly gone at this point. The city of Milwaukee is obviously there, but most of his teammates are gone. His coach from that team is gone. Yes, we got Brooke Lopez over here. We got whatever is left of Pat Connaughton over there. Like there's some remnants, but it's telling that, like you said, the Chris Middleton trade for me, and granted, I don't want to be Chris Middleton guy on yet another podcast, but I will because I am Chris Middleton guy on every podcast. There was something particularly soulless about trading him for Kyle Kuzma. This is a really important player to the history of your franchise. And you are so desperate under these circumstances that you're going to grasp at Washington Wizards Kyle Kuzma to say, maybe this is the kind of thing that could shake something loose in our rotation. Maybe this will let us play Giannis at the 5. Whatever your rationale might be. I get it. I get the desperation in that moment, but it speaks to where you are and how far you've come. That it's like, okay, I guess we just have to eject even a very injured, maybe will never be healthy, fully healthy again at a contending level. Chris Middleton probably will not, for the sake of chasing something that just is not there, because you're trading Giannis's basically best teammate after Dame, who now is going to be out for the foreseeable future, for Kyle Kuzma. The next best guy on the team after that, who would you even say is the next best buck? Because as you mentioned, Brooke Lopez can get played off the floor in a series like this. Also, by the way, is 37 years old. I don't like, is it Gary Trent Jr.? Like, legitimately, who is the next best buck?
Could be him. Could be Bobby Portis on some nights. AJ
fair.
Green just does what he does consistently.
Yeah.
You mentioned Middleton, and are we here anyway, no matter what? Although obviously the opportunity cost is what it is of doing the Dame trade and having it backfire. I look back at that 2022 Bucks team as a big what if, with Middleton missing essentially the entire playoffs, and yet they still go toe-to-toe with Boston in a 7-game series that ends in what will forever be remembered as the Grant Williams game without Middleton. And I've said this before, everyone that I know on the Celtics, within the Celtics, came out of that series with one universal reaction, which was, we never want to see that fucking dude in a playoff series again, about Giannis. That's how good he was that year, and he's still incredible. He's probably 97% as good as he was in that year, maybe a little bit less than that. And they had a championship team that year with Drew still, and Middleton wasn't there, and they just didn't have enough. And then they pivoted the next year the way they pivoted, and it just we all know, Nets, Rockets, Heat, whoever else wants to get into it, Knicks. Yeah, we'll see. A lot of it will depend on the playoffs, and what happens to some of these teams in the next round or two or whatever.
And I want to say this on that front, like as an observer of the league, the NBA is a better place if Giannis Antetokounmpo is a Milwaukee Buck. If he is kind of carrying and propping up that franchise and making them a contender, the NBA is a more interesting place. If he loses his ability to do that because of everything we've described, the empty coffers in terms of draft picks, the depreciating roster around him that now is going to be years away from even being healthy, much less good enough to do anything with it. Like that's such a bummer that we have to have these conversations. We have to talk about where Giannis could conceivably go, but losing the Bucks as a landmark on the NBA map I also want to be very clear about this. Who knows how long? Like, this is Giannis leaving, given all the draft picks out the door, is an ice age level event for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Unlike what we saw the Brooklyn Nets do, they have no vehicle to get those draft picks back. The Nets got some of their picks back because they had Phoenix draft assets. There was this theoretical, could Atlanta get their picks back by trading Trae Young to the Spurs? That wasn't a crazy, implausible idea. There's no pathway that I can see anyway to reclaiming ownership of those picks. And look, Giannis has 2 years plus one left on his deal after this. Dame has 2 years left, a player option for $58.5 million in 26-27. It just sucks. It all sucks. And here the Pacers are again. Now, I thought the Pacers were going to win this series anyway. Now they're almost certainly going to win it, up 3-1 going home. Tyrese Halliburton just literally cackling on the floor after every play that he makes. And a looming Pacers-Cavs series that is kind of interesting. And just as an aside, I asked you to pick a team of the weekend for this wild weekend. Just to go deep cut, I picked the Cavs because I thought that Cavs Game 3 performance in Miami was like cruel championship cruelty. Like, we are coming to take the soul of your franchise. We are going to extinguish any hope you have of like, oh, we're coming home. Like, someone will get hot. Maybe we can steal a game. And they came and they were like, we are going to dig your grave, throw you in the grave, stomp on your face a few more times, bury your corpse, and then light the whole graveyard on fire. And I was like, oh my God, this is a nasty fucking team. I think they're going to beat the Pacers in the next round, but the Pacers have some interesting answers to throw at them. And the last thing I'll say, all the shirts that the teams are wearing, that you'd say like win it for the Bay, win it for I like that the Pacers went away from win it and they have yes sirs. I'm like, oh, you know what? Don't love the pun. It's not great. It's a kind of artful in like its own silly way, but I like it. I'm going to give them props for yes sir. I would take a yes sirs shirt and wear it around.
100%. I think we just focus grouped out every other permutation of winning it for your home city / strength in numbers / all of the playoff slogans to death. So like, you have to get weird. Like we are at that level of depravity where we have to do team puns in order to just make this thing work. So I salute Indiana for doing it.
I'm interested to see what shirt the Grizzlies come out for Game 5, because I think they have the Thunder figured out, right?
They do.
They think they've really figured that one out.
They're fully stocked. 21 grenade salute for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Look out OKC in Game 5 back in the Thunderdome. Okay, are we ready to move on to series number 2?
Sure.
Wolves Lakers. Holy fuck! What a wild Game 4 in Minnesota. The Wolves take both games at home to go up 3-1. The Lakers are on the brink. The end game of this was so crazy that my notes are like just a page long on that. LeBron had a block, a strip.
Yeah.
And then Jaden McDaniels got an and one to put Minnesota up 1 on a beautiful play by Ant, who capped a masterpiece game by stringing out a trap. Didn't panic. I'm going to string this out. Found Naz Reid, who was sensational, who found McDaniels. And then all hell broke loose in the game with Minnesota up by 1. Luka brought the ball up and fell / got tripped / the last 2-minute report will be interesting. JJ's mad about it. And then LeBron threw away the inbounds pass / it was stolen. Then Ant fell and looked to be falling before LeBron hit his wrist in what was a foul, but he looked to be slipping anyway. It was called a foul on a A+ challenge by Chris Finch, who has coached a fantastic series every way around. Ant made the 2 free throws. Then it looked like Minnesota was trying to foul up 3 and didn't. And Austin Reeves got a corner 3 and missed. And now the Lakers,
really good look, we should say, for Austin Reeves. Like that's a plausible heartbreaker, right? Just right there as it hangs in the air.
Didn't it look like they were trying, like Randall kind of hugged Luka, and I was like, I think they're trying to foul up 3. They should have fouled up 3 and they didn't, and they almost fucking paid the price for it. Where do you want to even start with this? The Lakers are on the brink. Luka's getting roasted. Nico Harrison has got the sneer going somewhere, maybe. I know this hits close to home for you. And oh my God, I should have led with this. JJ Redick played the same lineup for an entire half of basketball,
certainly did.
Which I have never seen in my life. And what an insane game. You start wherever you want. I don't even know where to start.
I want to start. You mentioned the Cavs as your team of the weekend. You also wanted to talk MVPs of the weekend. I think it has to be Ant for me.
And we both choose Ant. Ant is the MVP of the weekend.
Basic ass answer, but like, this was a jaw-dropping performance in a game that was absolutely sick. And I also say it because I think when we tell the story of Anthony Edwards, at whatever point we want to step back and do that, I think we're going to talk about this game, or more importantly, talk about this series, right? Like, this was a moment. And I think all the great players have them. For Ant, it was going toe-to-toe with maybe the greatest player of all time, this other young superstar who bounced him out of the Western Conference Finals last year, and not only beating those guys, but doing it with a level of precision that you only get from a truly rare class of player. And so Ant won the game. He went up 3-1. Like, it's an incredible accomplishment in those senses. I just think he announced himself in whatever way that Anthony Edwards still needs to announce himself. And overall, I just remain absolutely gobsmacked by the fact that Anthony Edwards, 4 games into the series, 6 total turnovers in this series. I never thought I would see it. And I think there were kind of 2 paths for him to get to this level of, as you said, getting off the ball, playmaking, making advanced reads in the biggest possible moments. One of the paths was becoming a Luka or LeBron level cross-court, weak-side playmaker. One of the hardest things in basketball to do. Maybe he'll get there someday, maybe he won't. The other path that I don't think we talked about enough was, will he get better at making the simple pressure release plays? And will the players around him be good enough to do things with those plays to justify it? And I think that's where you're seeing incredible Jaden McDaniels minutes, incredible Julius Randle minutes, incredible like Dante DiVincenzo in crunch time. Like, you're getting all the contributions you need to justify the best player on the floor giving up the ball. And it feels right in the moment. It feels like the logical play.
No one needed another playoff appearance like Julius Randle needed another playoff appearance, because his playoff numbers before this series in a very small sample were so atrociously bad, they looked like they were implausible. And the sample size got bigger. And Julius Randle, he's guarding LeBron. He's attacking all the right matchups. Even when he attacks what I would consider the suboptimal matchups, he's getting stuff out of it. He's throwing the right pass. No turnovers, and 25 points in 43 minutes against the Lakers on Sunday. And Ant, you mentioned it, like, the game slows down is a cliche that we use all the time. This is a case where I think you can actually see it happening, because this is a very simple series for Ant. The Lakers are switching almost everything. He's picking whatever matchup he wants. A lot of times it's Luka. He seemed to get a soft spot for attacking Rui Hachimura down the stretch yesterday. I don't know what he likes about that matchup, but he roasted him. And when that matchup happens, he gets the ball and the Lakers load the floor from every angle. They try to confuse him. LeBron is like a cornerback on the sidelines, like stunting here, stunting there. Yes. It's like ferocious. And Ant just sort of digests it all. And there were a couple times where he didn't wait at all. He just got the matchup, put his head down, and went. And there was a level of decisiveness that there were no dancing, no prelude, no anything. Just go. Then there were other times where he like dribbled into the lane, help converged, took a dribble back, kept a live dribble, help went away, and then he'll just spin into like a nice 12-foot shot over Luka. It was calm. It wasn't seeking highlight plays every time. It wasn't being reckless, like Jalen Green's being reckless in the Warriors-Rockets series. It was like a veteran, calm, just masterful performance. And defensively, he's been good. Chris Finch has gone all out, putting Randle, McDaniels, and Ant on Reeves, LeBron, and Luka, and switching anytime they try to get in actions together. They've been on point with that. We haven't seen, like, Ant's been guilty a lot of times of like lazy box outs and falling asleep off the ball. Part of it is that the Lakers haven't forced a lot of that pressure on him, but he hasn't made any of those mistakes. Incredible Ant performance. The Lakers are just going to be complaining about the refs. And, you can talk more about Ant, but I do want to hear your reactions to both the alleged trip by Jaden McDaniels. It's not alleged. I mean, his foot hit Luka's foot and Luka fell over, and the overturned foul.
His foot is there, and Luka's foot runs into Jaden McDaniels' foot. Is that a trip? I guess yes, but also, I don't know. Is Jaden McDaniels not entitled to shuffle with his own space?
Well, and this is the issue, and I don't want to overplay this issue and transfer it onto every foul and non-foul that happens. But I'm glad I talked about this with Goldsberry last Thursday when I talked about the physicality of the playoffs and how I just thought this is a completely different sport from the regular season to a level that I don't think I can remember. I used dangerous. Like I said, someone is going to get injured or there's going to be a fight. And this is the problem with this, is that when plays like this happen, and by the letter of the law, it's probably a foul. And you see calls like a little nitpicky call here or there. And you see teams being like, how are you going to call that when I just got tackled by 4 guys and you let it go? And it's a completely legitimate argument. Every time there's a touch foul late in the game, teams are like, I don't understand. You just, like, hand checking is completely legal now. We're getting mugged. And then you call this. It's a legit argument. And I do think the refs have lost control of a lot of these series. And everybody loves the physicality. I like the physicality. Nobody wants to see 40 free throws. There actually have been a lot of free throws. So it's not like they're calling nothing. They can only call so much. I get the flow of the game stuff, but this is football out there.
Yes. Especially at the point, as you're saying, when the players themselves are confused about what kind of contact is allowable. There's a cost to the product, right? Anthony Edwards is there talking to the refs wondering, why is my arm around this player's waist a foul, but I can full body chop block LeBron James like for 5 consecutive seconds and no one's going to blow a whistle. Like, I think all anyone wants, players, fans, coaches included, is just like a sense of internal logic within these games, right? Like, we've always heard every game is officiated differently. I would say at this point, it's just straight up every possession is officiated differently. Every player on the floor is officiated differently. There's no sense of consistency of, okay, on this night in Minneapolis, these are the terms of engagement. It's anything goes at any given time, and then you're just randomly going to get whistled for a foul, or we're going to send the Zapruder level analysis film review to see, as you alluded to up top, despite the fact that Anthony Edwards is falling over, he does get hit across the wrist, and therefore this one graze across the wrist, which in the grand scheme of the contact in this game is not rising to the level of many of the other non-calls, is going to be a monumental moment in this year's playoffs.
And maybe in, I don't want to say the history of the Lakers franchise, because they're going to have some big decisions to make. And they do have home court, and it's always easier to come back 3-1 down home court. Look, that was a foul. It was a foul.
Absolutely, indisputably a foul.
He's also already falling down. And if you told me, well, it's a no call, we just let it go, I would have been like, well, that's kind of consistent with how you've called most of these playoff series. The trip, by the letter of the law, I guess that's a trip. Jaden McDaniels does take like a weird half step forward, but I don't think Jaden McDaniels is sitting there thinking, as Luka is bringing the ball up with 35 seconds left in a pivotal playoff game, how can I like accidentally trip Luka and get away with it? And then you still have the inbounds pass that you throw away and end up almost throwing the game away.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about Luka, because I jokingly brought up Nico Harrison and you laughed. Here's what I'm tired of. And it happened in the Phoenix series that they ended up winning the year they made the conference finals in the second round. It happened in the Celtics series, the finals, that they ended up losing. And it's happening again now. And my gripe is, why do you have to get humiliated at the beginning of every single playoff series before you show the world, like, yeah, I can actually put in a little bit more of an effort on defense? Because if you go back and you watch game 1 and 2 of that Phoenix series, he is so bad defensively that it's laughable. And then all of a sudden, he becomes passable. Celtics series, same thing. This is why Brian Windhorst screamed on television, which Brian never does, about like, hey, you have shown us you can actually do this when you care. And yet again, here we are. We're 4 games into this series, and he's just helpless defensively. Off the ball, too. Like his little lunges, like gambling, not even gambling, just sort of like lurching around aimlessly out of the play. It's like, look, the trade is not... I've said before, like, I wouldn't have done the trade. Almost no one in the NBA would have done this specific trade.
No.
You can find corners of smart NBA people, team people, who would tell you the idea of getting out ahead of this and trading Luka is not a crazy idea. The idea of doing it without shopping him to get 9 first-round draft picks and swaps and doing this specific trade is where the logic falls apart. So, look, I still think it's a crazy trade, but I'm just tired of, like, I'm going to be embarrassed until our backs are against the wall, and then I'm going to show you that, yeah, I can put up a little bit of a fight. How about you put up a fucking fight in, like, game 1 of the second round, and now you're down 3-1, and you're probably going home?
It's tough because Luka is a high-order competitor. Like, that dude's a motherfucker, and we've seen it in enough competitive circumstances to know. But if you are a motherfucker, can you not take this seriously on both sides? Can you not approach those sorts of possessions with the same kind of, at least baseline fire? You don't have to go like full blazing inferno intensity, like game winner over Rudy Gobert intensity, but can you at least have something, like a little bit of life in you as you go through those? And I think this kind of feeds into the Lakers defensive conversation a little bit too. You mentioned Ant just like being able to pick and choose which matchups he wants to attack. I just thought the Lakers switches were way too compliant. And you can see it on the other side. Luka wants, in particular, Naz Reid. Like, he wants to go at Naz Reid, and that's been a pretty successful matchup for him in this series. It's part of the reason why the Wolves are doing this dance. Like, do we have Gobert on the floor here? Do we have Naz Reid on the floor here? Like, Gobert's actually held up better in those kind of one-on-one situations than Naz has. But you have Jaden McDaniels, who's fighting like hell to get Nas out of as many of those situations as possible. And I think what the Lakers are missing right now is enough of those other guys who are doing the scram switching, the stunting, like fighting through the screen to prevent the switch at the point of attack. And thus Luka is sitting there. And sometimes he has, himself in the crosshairs. And sometimes, as you said, he's just being really lazy on the help side. Both things are bad. Both things I would hope are correctable. And we've seen historically both things are correctable. It's just only by game 3 or 4 when Luka decides to get embarrassed to a sufficient point where Jason Kidd chews him out, or in this case, I guess JJ Redick will chew him out. We'll see what the Lakers version of Luka getting embarrassed looks like. But he's going to have a spotlight on him with this team in a completely different way. And maybe that facilitates that embarrassment a little bit.
Well, I mean, this is like when the trade happened, we're like, well, he gets to look at LeBron's like off-court, regimen up close and like correct all these problems. He is extension eligible at the end of the season. LeBron has a player option this summer. And sneaky thing to look at, Austin Reeves is extension eligible. And I don't think there's any way that he takes the extension that the Lakers can offer, which is like 4 years, $90 million. He's going to go into unrestricted free agency after the 25-26 season. They obviously still have all the stuff that they traded for Mark Williams before the trade. I think the Lakers backed out of the trade.
It certainly feels that way. Well, and they'll have one other swap, I believe, going into this
swaps.
summer.
They've got swaps. And I do think one interesting stat from this series is that Luka only has 20 assists in 4 games, which for him is not very many. He has low assists game 1. He had 1, I think, in game 1 and 2 in game 4, and then a bunch in the middle. And I think you feel the absence of a dive man for him to sort of break down the defense and get into his sweet spots. Jackson Hayes didn't play the entire second half. And by the way, you know what complicates everything you're talking about, scramming, fighting over screens? When you have to play the entire second half of a high-stakes playoff game against a big, nasty, fast, physical team. I don't know what I'm not reading what the reaction to it is. I understand it was desperation time. And it's like, there are a lot of coaches, if they did that, they would be getting flambéed today. If Tibbs did that, he would be getting lambasted today. Now, I understand it's apples to oranges because Tibbs does this in the regular season and JJ Redick does not. I get it. But like, that is a really like, I'm watching it and I'm like, I actually looked back in the middle of the game. Like, did I miss a sub or is he actually not subbed anybody? I'm like, oh my God.
I mean, I would hope Tibbs took it as a personal attack. Like, you can go further. You can go farther. You can do more.
Can I play 4 guys the entire half and just play 4-on-5?
I also think too, the other problem with that, and yeah, you're right. There's a desperation element, right? Like, there's a reason no other coach does this, at least until there's no going back, right? Like, if you get deep enough in a series or deep enough in, of course, the NBA Finals, you do whatever you got to do. You play 6 guys if you have to. You play 5 guys if you have to. Nobody does it earlier than that, in part because it runs you down. And so when you see the Wolves have just owned the fourth quarter in this series overall, and especially owned the fourth quarter in this game, not an accident based on the amount of burn that these guys have. And also not an accident considering the only way that the Lakers get by defensively with the personnel that they have is by flying around, making high effort, high intensity plays all the time. And they really have, I would say, 5 guys who can do that plus Luka. One of them is Jared Vanderbilt, who in this game did not seem super playable offensively for all of his limitations. And so you can't execute the system you want to run. And really the only one that is solvent for this version of the Lakers roster with Jackson Hayes out there. Honestly, even sometimes with Gabe Vincent out there. You have this impossible conundrum because the roster is not built to be a roster. It is built to be an Anthony Davis team that then became a Luka Doncic team that will have to be rectified in the offseason. But in the meantime, I would say my hope would be you can just steal a couple of minutes. Like, it doesn't have to be a lot. You can still run these guys incredible minutes in the second half. Just get LeBron 1 minute of rest going into a TV timeout. Like, get him literally
we've seen
anything.
Lots of other coaches do this. They do it with Curry. Like, you get a minute, you get the TV timeout, you get back in the game.
Also, Jordan Goodwin can play. I think Jordan Goodwin can play a little bit more than he's playing.
Yeah. Dan Wojcicki wrote a great piece about the banshee culture. That's a term they use to describe just the flying around defensive players that they've cultivated. And Goodwin is kind of the poster guy in the story. It's like, well, it's nice that they were bought into banshee culture, and now they can't get on the floor when the season actually matters.
It's tough scenes.
I will say, Oklahoma City is watching all of this and being like, you guys go to town, like, beat the shit out of each other. we're over here. Yeah, Memphis figured us out, but the series is over. So we're just chilling. Like, we're fresh as a daisy. We're young. We're deep. And it's like, the Warriors Rockets game 4 is tonight, but right now we only have 1-2-2 series in the entire round, and we're about to talk about it. Like, I think the Warriors are going to have some urgency to win this game and try to get out of this series, because they're watching these teams just slug each other, and every series is so physical. The Thunder are like, yeah, we're done. We're cool. We'll take like 8 days off until the next round if you'll get, and they might get, like, depending on this Denver Clippers series. I want to give Chris Finch his flowers. You mentioned the Reed Gobert conundrum. I feel like he's played that exactly right. Like, he's had a great feel for, okay, and I've said this before, like, the Rudy issue is not on defense. It's on offense, particularly the way the Lakers are guarding them.
And his finishing in this series has been all-time atrocious.
How about they call a post-up for him to open? Was it to open the game or open the half?
I think it was to open the game.
Didn't go great.
No.
I feel like he's had a great feel for that, and the same with DiVincenzo and Conley. And the Wolves' second most played lineup is that lineup with DiVincenzo for Conley and Reed for Gobert, plus 27 in 22 minutes for the series. He even played all 3 bigs together yesterday, and played, now somewhat due to foul trouble, played Jaden McDaniels at the 4 and Terrence Shannon at the 4, played a little smaller. Like, he's playing every card and he's doing it in the right doses. Any adjustment you're looking for from the Lakers as they try to save their season, other than what we've kind of talked about defensively and all that?
I think that, they clearly have to stave off some of the minutes concerns. They have to buy time somewhere. The turnovers, I think, are an issue. There's also a weird thing with Luka too, where I don't know how you adjust out of this, because some of this is Luka's game and some of it is his particular carelessness within this series, where he's getting like picked at half court in a way that I've never seen Luka Doncic get picked at half court before. All
by
credit
Rudy.
To the Wolves for that.
By Rudy a couple times.
Of all the people he does not want to be embarrassed by, Rudy Gobert ripping you at half court. It's not quite Buddy Hield and Steven Adams, but we're nearing into the territory of the dynamic. There's something with Luka where his mistakes, and he had an incredible shot-making game. Like, he was kind of going toe-to-toe with Ant for a lot of this game in a way that I hope we get 10 more years of that as far as Western Conference basketball goes. But his mistakes really feed Wolves runs. And some of it, like, he smoked a layup that all of a sudden became a 6-0 Wolves run. He missed a couple of gimmies. He gets picked at half court a couple times. Those are monumental plays within the flow of this game. And so it's like, I don't know how you can't like take away all of Luka's mistakes, but there's something about the floor balance in those moments. And this has been a Luka problem throughout his career a little bit, where he gets deep into the paint and he's not going to be the first one back on defense busting ass. Although I think he did try a desperation revenge chase down block at one point in this game that did not quite work out.
He did.
So he will do it on occasion, but ultimately him being behind the play after deep drives is tough. But that's what you have to do if you're not going to settle for jumpers every time against a switch heavy defense.
Couple of things before we put this series to bed. Minnesota, 35% offensive rebounding rate. They're doing their job as the bigger team.
Also, I think can only be combated if you get guys more rest. Like you saw by the end of this game, Austin Reeves is running on fumes, trying to box out Rudy Gobert and getting elbowed in the face. Like, you have to get these guys a little bit of time if you want them to be competitive on the boards. Well,
the possession they had, when they went up, I think they were up 2 after LeBron had his second highlight defensive play of the last 2 minutes, and they up 2 with like a minute 10 left. Big possession. They just did nothing. They just ran. They just all kind of stood there. Luka, I think, ran some rote half-speed pick and roll. LeBron ended up taking like a logo 3. That's an exhausted team kind of frittering away a massive possession on the hope that a 30-foot 3 will just go in and win them the game. The other stat I want to mention, Minnesota +8 in free throw attempts. I don't think a lot of people expected that. Game 5 could look a little different in Los Angeles, but if those stats are like that, this series is bye-bye. You mentioned
Could I offer one more Chris Finch flower to the bouquet that you already gave him? Him saving that challenge for that moment at the end of this game literally saved it. And in stark contrast, I want to say JB Bickerstaff's a very good coach. I have a lot of respect for the work he's done with the Pistons this season. I'm going to hand JB Bickerstaff and every coach in the NBA a very handy flow chart, which is the play you're about to challenge, will it result in actual points? If yes, you can challenge it. If no, is it late in the game enough that possession alone might swing the result of the game? If yes, challenge. If no, do not challenge it. Like, just do not do it. I don't care how confident Cade Cunningham is. You cannot challenge that play.
Do you do this in real life? like if my wife is like, "Hey, you didn't wash that dish carefully enough," should I just start swirling my finger? Challenge. Let's get our daughter in here.
I think the Hawkeye view is going to vindicate you on that. It's going to show that you did sponge it.
Here's the real dirty truth. It's I every time I have not washed the dish appropriately. I am a serial ignorer of the outside of dishes. Like, so if
you're
pasta
inside
sauce,
only.
I'm in a rush. I want to get things done, and I'm fair. Sloppy. But I will maybe a challenge flag. I don't look the uptick to 2 challenges has sort of changed the math. When there was 1 challenge, it was just you just save it for the end of games, and like Miami never uses challenges ever, which is kind of weird. But now that there are 2, you will get smart people who are in charge of figuring this out for teams who will say on the first one, if you're 100% sure you're going to win it, you can use it on something that feels innocuous, like a change of possession or something, because that could be a 3, it could be whatever. Like if you're decision tree number 1 is like, are you going to win it for the first one? And if yes, for sure, use it.
Let me ask you this, Zach. Are you 100% certain of literally anything in your life?
An out of bounds call where it like clearly hits somebody's hand and it's been called the wrong way.
I would hope, but I just don't ascribe that level of certainty, and I'm certainly not going to bank a playoff game.
Oh, you know what I'm 100% certain on? I need Mets fans' feedback on this. I vowed when I got laid off and I embraced the Mets again after a long time off during their playoff run. I vowed to be a regular fan. Not a regular fan. I vowed to keep in touch. I can't do it during the I vowed to check a box score, and I do it every day. Maybe they'll be on in the background somewhere on a TV. I can glance at, okay, so-and-so's up. I'm doing it. I'm living up to my vow. Now I'm buying a jersey. And this is what I'm 100% sure of. I'm buying a jersey. And as a lapsed diehard Mets fan I own 2 jerseys, Todd Hundley and Mike Piazza. That's how lapsed I am. I need the Mets community to tell me what is the most ethical and most Metsy jersey to get. Anyway, you mentioned Luka smoking the layup. A fun theme of this weekend's crazy games are the forgotten plays that end up being huge. So there's that. There's Schroeder not accelerating for a layup at the end of the third quarter and instead passing to Tim Hardaway Jr., I think, for a dunk that didn't count in a game the Pistons lost by 1. Was it 1? Did they lose by 1?
I think they lost by 2.
2? Whatever they did. It was close. My brain is mush. And then...
Oh, no, it was 1. You're right. 94-93.
And then there is the end of the first quarter of Nuggets-Clippers, which turns into the game of the year, maybe, at least given the stakes, where with 1.9 seconds left, I think, James Harden throws a football pass on a sideline out of bounds that goes the entire length of the court and goes out of bounds on the opposite baseline. Nobody touches it, and the Nuggets get the ball back in their offensive end, and Jokic hits a 3 at the buzzer. And you forget about stuff like that in the craziness of the game. And holy crap, was this game crazy?
Yes.
It's just these things come back to bite you sometimes. Let's talk about that game because we have a bonus. That series, rather. It's 2-2. It's the only 2-2 series, and we have an extra day off. The series does not resume till tomorrow. I gave you one homework assignment, which was rewatch the Aaron Gordon Miracle. And I've watched it 20 times. And tell me something you didn't notice the first times that you watched it. Did you find anything?
I did find something. I don't think I had a appropriate appreciation of the Kawhi Leonard double.
That's number 1 on my list.
I think it's like you see it. I know he gets there. And so every time I'm rewatching it, I'm watching everything else because I know Kawhi is going to get to Jokic, but not enough to deflect the ball or ultimately to block the shot. That said, you watch him. It is perfectly executed. Textbook, the second that Jokic starts to turn and has even anything resembling a blind eye to Kawhi, he's gone. And Bogey, of course, this is like all scripted. Bogey is rotating up. Everything kind of tracks as far as what the Clippers are trying to do in that moment. The difference is like Kawhi in pursuit is such a terrifying thing that even though I know he doesn't get there, my brain is making me think, but might he get there this time? Like this time I watch it, is he going to actually like sneak up on Jokic and get this? Because he has... It's not just a look in his eye, but a change in his body language, Kawhi's body language, when he knows he can take a play over. And he kind of has that in that moment. And frankly, I wonder if the reason Jokic airs that Sombor shuffle so badly is he might see Kawhi at the very end of it and rush it a little bit.
I would just run out of bounds. If that guy were coming at me, I would just like, let's go to overtime.
Get out of the arena, frankly, if you see him coming after you. But he's already got to get it over Zoo, and now he's got to beat Kawhi on the timing, and so he can't cock it back as much to even release it. I kind of wonder if the reason he misses it so badly is because of Kawhi, and it's only because he misses it exactly that badly that Aaron Gordon can catch it because it doesn't even clip rim.
So I'm not going to lie. I watched the entire Warriors-Rockets game after that game, and as I was watching that game, every 10 minutes, I would be like, I'm going to have to rewatch this game because all I can think about is Aaron Gordon's dunk. I don't really understand what happened. Still, I don't understand the science behind how that was like indisputably a good basket. I believe that it was because they've gone like within milliseconds to show the light going off. I just can't believe that it happened. I don't even understand the how it happened. And I noticed the Kawhi double team too, because I'm watching and you see Aaron Gordon come for the offensive rebound and you see the defense kind of shading toward Jokic. And I asked myself, like, why are they overloading the floor at all? Why is all the attention just not on like, stay on our guy? There's nothing James Harden can do by taking an extra half step toward Nikola Jokic on this shot. It's going to go in or it's not going to go in. And then you watch it again. It's like, actually, they're tilting a lot. They're tilting a little bit because Kawhi is double teaming, but you should, and that leaves 3-on-2 on the backside. Yeah. And Harden doesn't know who to box out. And here comes Aaron Gordon. And absolutely incredible. I'll tell you what I noticed. Jokic has zero reaction, like which we've seen before.
Yeah.
He just puts his head down. Like it's almost, if you just zoomed on in his reaction, you would think they lost the game. He just puts his head down and just starts walking. You're
just
like,
trots off.
And Jeff, I have an eye on Jeff Van Gundy all the time because I miss Jeff. I love Jeff. I'm so happy that he's back in the muck of this, and I'm sure he's enjoying himself.
I mean, straight up in the muck, wrestling balls away from people on the bench. Right. Like really in it.
And so I watched him, and he just he's sitting down. He's not standing up. He's like the only guy not standing up. He's sitting down, and then he just sort of keeps sitting down. Just an absolutely incredible moment from an incredible finish, which includes a absolutely ridiculous shot that Jokic hits to put them up 2, followed by a Zubac's putback to tie the game. This series is now 2-2. It was the series I was most excited about. I picked Nuggets in 7. I feel like it could have been a sweep by now. Like the Clippers have been the better team. They're plus 33 for the series. Where are you as we go into game 5 in Denver? I don't know if you made a pick. I don't remember. What's your feel of this?
I picked Nuggets in 7. We could be headed there, certainly. I think my only apprehension about us getting to Nuggets in 7 is it feels like a series where the Clippers have options and the Nuggets do not have options. Their options, to the extent that they have them, Denver, is, okay, we can change how we execute against some of these kind of junked up defenses that have been giving us trouble. And you have the best player in the world to do that, in theory, in Nikola Jokic. That hasn't exactly helped so far, and I'm wondering if maybe over time they'll just have a level of familiarity with those sorts of zones that will help them penetrate them. But as far as rotation decisions go, no one is going to play any more or less pending whatever's going on with Russell Westbrook's foot. Like, you're not going to be able to scale up the Jalen Pickett minutes in a meaningful way that's going to change your rotation. Versus the Clippers, they actually do have some choices to make. And I think in particular, they're going to have a bit of a Chris Dunn choice to make as the series continues to develop. His offense is starting to become a real problem. They can flex him out if they have to. And I don't think they want to for obvious reasons. Chris Dunn is a hellacious defender. Even if he is mismatched in size at some points in the series with the switches that they're executing, he's still really valuable to have on the floor for that purpose. But just the simple fact that Ty Lue can look down his bench and say, okay, we're going to try Derek Jones instead and just see if his 3 is going tonight. We're going to try Nick Batum instead, who is just such a steady hand in these sorts of moments. We're going to go to Bogey in this moment. Bogdan Bogdanovic had easily the game of his playoff life coming off of game 4.
I am, having not watched Bogdan Bogdanovic's entire career, every single game, having not watched every international game, having not watched his games in Europe, I am quite confident that was the best rebound of his entire basketball life when he stole the ball from Jokic, jumped over him, and laid in an up and under to give the Clippers a lead late in the game.
Completely. And so, yeah, I think that's why if at this point, I feel the tilt toward the Clippers. Like, in terms of what should happen, the Clippers should have more to play with that would let them get through the back part of the series. The Nuggets have Nikola Jokic on their team. And I don't want to give short shrift to Aaron Gordon or Christian Brown, who I thought was really good. Michael Porter Jr. is out there with one arm, having a really good and really important game. All that stuff matters. It really, to me, feels like a team that has one defining option, which is Jokic increasing his aggression and finding a way in the way that we saw in Game 4, being a little less choosy on his shots, being willing to take more, versus a team that has like some strategic levers to pull in a way that David Adelman is just like, does not have that luxury at this point.
Yeah, this series is stretching Jokic to the absolute outer bounds of his versatility. I mean, there are possessions where he starts by running an inverted pick and roll as the ball handler and finishes by shooting a three in isolation. I mean, that's literally what happened on one possession, I think, in late in the third quarter. They're running him off pin downs. They need to run some cross screens for him. Like, they're using the absolute limits of his versatility just to survive in this series. You mentioned MPJ. He gets crapped on all the time because of his contract, because his handle hasn't developed, because his defense is a little bit spacey at times and was in this game, or particularly early off of Chris Dunn. His defense is a big pivot point in the series because he's guarding Chris Dunn. And as you suggested, clearly in Game 4, adjustment number one is whatever help you're giving off Chris Dunn in games 1 to 3, dial it up by 50% in Game 4. Ignore him completely. And you got to be on time. You got to be on time no matter where Chris Dunn is. If he's on the strong side, it doesn't matter. Rules don't apply. Your job is to help. And he screwed that up a few times. He played 42 minutes with a bad shoulder. 6 of 11, 4 of 7 on threes, 17 points. The Nuggets needed every one of those points. Crap on Michael Porter Jr. when he deserves it. Recognize that that's a ballsy performance. Christian Brown, I thought, was the unsung hero of the game. 8 of 19, not great. 1 of 7, not great. The one was huge. I thought his defense was some of the best he's played. And you can see the Nuggets trying to figure out when can we sit Jokic back a little bit on these pick and rolls, because when he's up to touch, it's a problem for us. It's a good battle when the Clippers have to pass it around and figure out how to find the open guy. But they're trying to, like, can we sit him back a little bit? You can only do that if Christian Brown is like roaring down Harden's tail on those pick and rolls. But you mentioned Dunn, and that was the adjustment that enabled the comeback. Was the Clippers went to Bogdanovich over Dunn and did something that I was waiting for them. When will they feel pressed to do this? Which is go all in on a lineup with only one non-shooter in Zoo instead of two, with Zoo plus Dunn or Zoo plus Derek Jones Jr. or, God forbid, Ben Simmons plus one of those other guys. And they went all in on it, and the Nuggets had zero answer defensively. Like, Norm Powell went crazy. Every shot was wide open. All of a sudden, the spacing just bent the Nuggets defense and just broke it. And I'm interested to see how quickly they go back to that. They should and will, I think, start Chris Dunn still. But you mentioned Batum, and Batum is the guy that I like in those lineups the best because of his combination of size, defense, and shooting. I've got my eye on that lineup with Batum in Dunn's place in the starting five. I thought that was and they went zone, in a way that really seemed to confuse the Nuggets.
I don't get that. You know, like, I don't understand why, when you have a giant playmaker who can see over the top of the defense, why it would be so stifling to run up against the zone, other than to say, like, Bogey was playing the top of that zone. And I thought that he and the Clippers were super aggressive in challenging and denying the ball in the first place to prevent Jokic from even getting set up at the elbow, more or less, so he can sort of read the floor. And that pressure goes a long way. And I think by that point in the game, the Nuggets were so exhausted from 44 minutes of competitive basketball that, you know, they're walking into some stuff, right? Like, they're a little too casual getting into some of the offense against the zone. They've had this big, I think it was a 22-point lead at one point, that they're kind of just trying to coast out to a win rather than to punch through.
Oh, they went prevent offense big time, to the point that Jokic tried to walk the dog a couple times, and the Clippers were like, "You're not doing that." And one of those possessions, he had to throw that like a sudden, like, pick the ball up and lob it to Aaron Gordon, and Aaron Gordon just like sprinted up the court with the ball and turned it over immediately. It's like, oh my God, they're kind of disintegrating here.
They really were. I mean, this was a very, very, very narrowly avoided implosion. And we would obviously be talking about the results so differently if not for an Aaron Gordon fingertip overall in terms of the impact on the series and what it means about the Nuggets and all these things. But, like, I don't want to gloss over the fact that Denver tried every way it could to give this game away and just barely could not do it, but really, really tried.
The zone I thought confused them and at times confused me because I think if you rewatch the possessions, there are some in there that are actually man-to-man, except the matchups are just different. Like they just straight up put Kawhi on Jokic a couple of times. And if you look at the way that the matchups are flowing, it's kind of man-to-man. I think they just got them off balance. And one of the things the zone does is it fucks up all the matchups. So if you get a stop, everything's scrambled going the other way. And Kawhi is killing the Nuggets on cross matches because he's guarding Michael Porter Jr., the Nuggets want no part of Michael Porter Jr. on him. Michael Porter Jr. wants no part of just like, okay, I got to take Kawhi. I'll just do it. He's running away from that matchup, and Kawhi is feasting in the void of that. Aaron Gordon, it's an awesome moment for him. Just a player that I think every basketball diehard can appreciate everything he does. Awesome moment for him. And I like the Nuggets. They've sprinkled in like some Murray Gordon 2-man game to try and get him going as a roller and use Jokic as a little bit of a spacer, secondary playmaker. They've even done Murray, Gordon, Jokic staggered screens, which I like. And I still don't think they're running enough Murray, Jokic pick and roll. They only ran 19 according to Second Spectrum in game 4. For the series, they're running about 20 a game, 1.4 points per possession, no matter how you slice it. That's very, very good. I feel, I don't know. It's like we're going to talk about the Knicks in a second. I have no idea why there's not more Brunson cat pick and roll. I mean, that's like coaching malpractice to me.
The eternal question. But with the Jokic Murray stuff, I think a lot of it is that zone, right? It's like pick and roll against zone is a little bit more of a complicated endeavor. And certainly when you're denying the ball as aggressively as the Clippers are, but they need those Aaron Gordon possessions on like the periphery of this game. They need those Christian Brown possessions. I thought to the extent that Denver's other modifications, other than what they were doing defensively against Chris Dunn, really paid off. One of them was Aaron Gordon busting ass down the court and sealing with deep position against whoever he can get his ass on effectively.
Cross matches.
Those cross matches were huge, drew some fouls, got some free points both for him and for other people. Like that is stuff that they can pull out and that they'll have to. But like most of the Nuggets adjustments ultimately, I think are read this better or run this harder. And they just don't have a lot of flexibility beyond those things.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I picked Nuggets in 7. In theory, this looks like Nuggets in 7. It's 2-2. Both teams have won on the road. The Nuggets have home court advantage. Don't feel good if I'm a Nuggets fan, but like I also, the series has been strange enough where every time you feel like, okay, the Clippers have it figured out, they're clearly the better team, they blow out Denver in game 3, it sort of comes back to this muddy middle. And so I guess we're just going to kind of live there. Any parting thoughts before we go to Pistons-Knicks?
No, let's keep it moving.
Pistons-Knicks, 3-1 Knicks. Was it a foul?
Yeah.
It was a foul.
Probably should have had your challenge. Probably should have consulted the flow chart.
Well, you can't challenge that, can you?
Why not?
Could you challenge a non-call?
I believe we saw another challenge of a non-call this weekend.
Yeah, you're right. It was a foul.
Josh Hart seemed to tip that it was a foul.
Josh Hart said it was a foul. It's the arms that get me in the end. Yeah. The arms come down a little bit, and I will credit Tim Hardaway Jr. for this. He doesn't jump sideways super aggressively to sell it, and I think in the end pays the price for playing borderline ethical basketball and not doing what a lot of players would do, which is completely take a sideways jump shot. It was a foul, and the Knicks win anyway. I don't know what else to say about it. It sucks to have a game decided on a play like that. Ultimately, there's a lot of things that go into deciding the game. The Knicks are only +8 for the series. They're scoring 110 points per 100 possessions. They're going to win the series. They should win the series, obviously. Brunson has the injury scare and then comes back and scores 15 points in the fourth quarter on 7 of 11 shooting. Incredible performance, incredible shot making. And Cat with just 2 all-time bailout jumpers, one falling out of bounds on a totally dead possession where, again, the Knicks don't run their best stuff. And the other, if you freeze the moment where Cat makes that step back 3 that ultimately wins the game, you will struggle to find worst spacing from a competent NBA offense. Literally all 5 Knicks players are within the same 20-foot quadrant of the floor on the right side, and Cat steps back and hits the 3. Incredible shot. Where do you want to go with? I mean, I'm already looking ahead to the next series, which will be Knicks-Celtics probably. I feel a little worse about the Knicks coming out of this series than I did coming into it. I picked the Knicks in 5. This is on course for Knicks in 5, but it's not the Knicks in 5 that I envisioned.
Let me make a slight counterpoint to that. I think coming out of this game, which, as you said, was flawed, certainly there are a lot of Knicks runs that are like, how are you guys letting this fritter away after you've had the dominant stretches, in particular defensively, that you had in the first half? All that I take in stride, I take into account. I came out of this game feeling like this Knicks performance was closer to anything we saw during last year's run than anything I've seen from this Knicks team before. Like, there's been something kind of missing with them. And again, this was far from a perfect game, but I thought they tapped back into some of the like greater than the sum of their parts magic that made last year's team really special. And some of it was the emotion and the energy in the building for this game was just off the charts from the start for both teams, for Little Caesars Arena. Like, it seemed like an amazing vibe. I would have loved to see this game in person. But I thought they were flying around, and some of this might be like the Josh Hart element of this in particular, where he had such a good, energetic game. And that is kind of one of the defining characters of last year's run in particular. And so if you take, okay, this energy is working. Yeah, OG and Mikal Bridges can't hit anything, especially around the rim. Like, their inability to finish is starting to become a huge problem. But defensively, I thought they were giving exactly what I want them to give. Jalen Brunson and Cat have this incredible closing push. Just the kind of kick that even someone like Cade Cunningham and even a team like the Pistons are not capable of. Are we getting somewhere with the collective value of all of these things? That would be my only hope coming out of this game, despite how messy it was.
Well, Hart has been awesome the last 2 games, and there was a segment of Knicks fans clamoring for less Josh Hart and more Deuce McBride. By the way, Deuce McBride can't make a shot.
No.
And I said on Thursday, like, that's just not going to happen. Josh Hart is too important to the fabric of the team. Tibbs is the last coach who's going to do something like that. And Josh Hart, 14 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals in game 4, made his 3s, which are going to be pivot points in this series.
Yeah.
And in game 3, I thought Josh Hart pushing the pace unlocked Cat, because the Pistons could not get out of the Duren-Cat matchup, which they're trying to avoid. And yes. Duren was stuck on Cat. Cat walked into some trail 3s. Not only that, using Josh Hart as a facilitator from above the elbow and getting your cutting game going, I think opened up their offense a little bit. So I get what you're saying. Sometimes I wonder, like, Bill has spent the whole year raving justifiably about the Brunson-Cat pick and roll and how unstoppable it is with shooting around it, and Bridges, Hart shooting, take or leave, and Anunoby, who's been outstanding the whole year. They've run 47 pick and rolls in 4 games. That's just not nearly enough. And in both game 3 and game 4, yesterday, because of Tobias Harris's foul trouble, they were gifted extended periods of time where the Pistons decided we have no choice but to guard Cat with Jalen Duren or Paul Reed. We're putting our centers on him because we just can't, we don't have anything else to do. And you're just like, you are been gift wrapped a chance to run a Brunson-Cat pick and pop and just see how they respond. And they either don't do it, or they run it so half-heartedly that it doesn't go anywhere. And there's fatigue in that too. And even when they have to, I keep harping on this, even when they have Tobias Harris on Cat, you're not outlawed by the NBA from running that same 2-man game. Because guess what? If Tobias Harris switches, Jalen Brunson's going to get a good shot. And what he's usually doing is just hugging Cat and saying, we're not leaving Cat. And Jalen Brunson's getting good driving lanes. And if he switches, you might get a Cat. Like, you're allowed to do this. And this is, I'm assuming, I haven't listened to Bill and Ryan yet, why Bill tweeted this is a brutal Tibbs game, because you are gifted this chance of, we don't have to problem solve around Jalen Duren on Josh Hart.
we are given the matchup that we got Cat for, center on Cat, and we don't leverage it. It's driving me insane. Is it driving you insane?
Completely. Like, again, because the solution is so simple and because their games do interlock. This isn't a Damian Lillard, Giannis situation where they don't have the chemistry. They've got it. Like, they've got the juice, Brunson and Cat together. Their games interlock in a really successful and really easily accessible way. All you have to do is run it. And the Toby part of this, I want to zero in on specifically because, Duren, an understandable target. I get why the Pistons are trying to keep him out of that.
Minus 42 in the series. It doesn't feel that bad to me, although there was one catch and shoot three Cat had with like 3 minutes to go where he was kind of spaced out in no man's land. I was surprised it's that dramatic, minus 42.
Some of it, he's been able to claw back some points on the glass in particular in a way that helps, but defensively, this is just not a good matchup for him. Is a really tough spot to put a player of his inexperience and his youth, to be honest. Like, he's still such a young player to throw him into this
22
particular
years old.
fire. Like, this is a lot for him. And he's out there impacting the game how he can, sometimes more effectively than others, largely not a factor in the defense.
21 years old, 21 and a half years old.
Incredible. And I have a lot of hope for Jalen Duren. I do not have a lot of hope for his ability to defend in this series because it just has not really been there. But even putting him aside, I'm really glad you brought up the Tobias Harris element, which Cat versus Tobias Harris is the matchup I did not know I needed, but I've been very much enjoying. Like, they're jawing and going back and forth. It's become a battle of real consequence within the complexion of this series.
Where has this Tobias been all of our lives? Philadelphia fans would have loved this Tobias Harris. He's talking crap. He's pushing. He's shoving. He makes mean faces, it turns out. This is all Philadelphia fans wanted, minus the gigantic salary. They would have liked this Tobias. I like this. Where has this guy been? Is there something about Detroit? I love it.
I think it is something about Detroit. I think it is something about his role as an elder statesman for the team and, setting an example that way versus being, Tobias, go stand in the corner because we don't really value what you do, which, fair enough. Like, I think he means something to a competitive playoff team that he cannot to a high-order contending team, and that's fine. The way it manifests is him being a really, I think overall one of the most important Pistons on the floor, full stop. And him getting in foul trouble was a huge swing point in this game as well. But you can run pick and roll at Tobias Harris. Like, he is still just mere mortal Tobias Harris. And you are Jalen Brunson.
He's not Kevin Garnett from 2007.
I am also mystified by the lack of 1-5 pick and roll. I just think it's right there for the taking anytime they want to do it. What Tibbs has told us historically is he will not take the fruit that you want him to take, despite how low it hangs. Like, he is going to do his thing. And that thing is going to work or it's not, but there's not going to be a lot of futz or adjustment about it.
I used to call Mike Budenholzer Coach Low-Hanging Fruit, and people took it as an insult. And I was like, no, it's a compliment. He's taking all the easy, we're not going to foul. We're going to get every defensive rebound. We're going to take care of all the stuff that's easy for us to take care of. It was meant as a compliment. Pick the fruit. The fruit's there. It's delicious. It's ripe. Pick it right off the tree.
Can I wonder one thing about, just to play devil's advocate on the pick and roll front? I wonder if part of it's one thing if you're going to have Cat pop exclusively and be, he's one of the best shooters, one of the best big man shooters ever lived.
Can we do that? That sounds great.
As far as Cat as roll man or Cat as driver, this was already a game where Cat's battling foul trouble, and I want to give him immense credit for tackling his own personal white whale, which is picked up that fourth foul super early, played basically a full rotation shift after that foul without picking up the fifth. Straight up, that is the reason the Knicks win this game. It's his ability to stay on the floor is probably the reason why the Knicks win. I wonder if part of the reason they don't want Cat rumbling through a roll or even picking up a moving screen, which he will and can do on many occasions, are they just trying to keep the fouls off of Cat as much as possible? And maybe that's giving Tibbs and the Knicks too much credit.
I don't know if that's the conversation I want to have about a guy who's getting paid $53 million next season, $57 million the year after, $61 million the year after. We got to dial back the pick and rolls with the best shooting, self-proclaimed best shooting big man in the history of the NBA because of his foul. It's not
good.
He played very well, and he's played tough, and this has been a physical, nasty series like all of these series have been. The Knicks are going to pull out of it, but the Tobias thing has been really fun. I like this Tobias. And they're lost without him. They don't know what to do without him. No. Should we play Asar Thompson? Should we play Ron Holland? Should we just play Cade at the 4? What happens when we play Cade at the 4? They just don't know what to do. I'm a little surprised.
deep cut. Is Simone Fontecchio like dead? Like, what happened to him? I thought he was going to play a little bit in this series.
He should play in this series. Like, I really don't see why not. I mean, like, at the point where Cade Cunningham has to shove Ron Holland to prevent him from fighting with literally anyone in his vicinity, are we really so opposed to playing Simone Fontecchio in this moment? And I would say, in particular, because guys like Mikal and OG are already not a factor on anything inside the three-point arc right now. Like they really struggled with overall the length of what Detroit is putting out there. And Simone Fontecchio, for all his limitations, like that dude has that kind of length.
Plus, when he makes threes, everybody on the bench does this.
I know. You're just, again, low-hanging fruit that's right there for both teams to take. On one hand, 1-5 pick and roll. On the other hand, great Italian celebrations.
The Pistons have only scored 109 points per 100 possessions in this series. Offensively, that was when I picked the Knicks in 5, I said, I just don't think they're going to be able to score enough to keep up with the Knicks. Now, it turns out keeping up with the Knicks has not been that difficult, and they still haven't been able to do it. What have you thought of Cat's defense in this series?
Okay, not good enough. Like, I mean, I think it presents the same problems going forward that we all would have expected. And this is, when you get into the issue of like, okay, well, they're going to run into the Celtics. Like, what is it that is going to happen here? Like, what is it that they would be able to do? Cat and Brunson being such pressure points defensively is such a problem, and it's such like a glaring neon sign that I worry about. I think he's been okay, but it's hard to defend when you're in foul trouble, and that's when you give up dunks. That's when you give up some like high impact plays because you can't afford to impact them. So as much as anything, I think it relies on him not picking up those cheap fouls, as does every element of his game.
I think okay is, I think I'm like 80% of okay. I think I'm like a little less than okay. There have been segments of the series when they've asked him to come up to the level of the screen against Cade, and he's just been too late, and so he's got to like panic and rush out, and Duran has had streaks of dunk, and then they've sat him back a little bit and said, can you try dropping? And that hasn't worked. But other points he's been okay. Spinning it forward to the likely Boston Knicks matchup in the second round. Obviously, Boston dominated that matchup in the regular season, but you hit it exactly on the head. I'm watching Orlando-Boston, and Orlando has successfully dragged the Celtics into the mud, which I did not really think they're going to be able to do to this level. Celtics' three-point game fell off volume-wise in Orlando in games 3 and 4. They're only 38% of their attempts have come from 3 in this series. It was 50% in the regular season. And that's obviously Orlando's plan. Orlando's base defense in this series is we are switching everything. Wendell Carter Jr. is our 5. Switchier than Cat, but it's not like he's, again, prime Kevin Garnett. Corey Joseph's our 1. A little stouter than Jalen Brunson, maybe, like not maybe defensively, but like, it's not like he's a 6'5" point guard. It's Corey Joseph.
He does have the veteran dark arts though. Like Corey Joseph knows his way around, he knows what he's doing down there.
But we're switching everything. And that means Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you can have Wendell Carter Jr. and attack his feet, or you can play bully ball against Corey Joseph. And guess what? You can get all the way to the basket, and we're not sending help from anywhere. We're going to make you make decisions at the rim, particularly if Cornette is on the floor, so there's a little bit of traffic there. And if not, we're going to count on Wendell Carter Jr. or Corey. We're going to count on Wendell Carter Jr. being big enough to, like, you're going to miss some of those shots. And we're going to count on Corey Joseph to stand you up and make you take 12-foot jump shots. And we are not sending help. There's a moment late in the third quarter last night in game 4 where Jason Tatum is driving on Corey Joseph, and Caleb Houston, out of pure reflex, rotates off Peyton Pritchard in the corner, gets into the paint, and then realizes, you can see it in his head, like, oh, wait, I'm not supposed to do this, and sprints back at Peyton Pritchard, like, ah! And I'm watching this, and I'm wondering, is this a blueprint that the Knicks and other teams can go to against the Celtics, just as a way of like, yeah, Cat's not Wendell Carter Jr., Brunson's not Corey Joseph, but it's not like those guys are all world defenders. And can we just slow the game down, make the Celtics devolve into one-on-one play, and just decrease their three-point volume? Is that a roadmap for the Knicks or not?
It's a roadmap for a team that is not coached by Tom Thibodeau. Like, I think that's straight up it. And, like, that's not to say he's a bad coach, but he's a coach who wants his team to defend in a very specific way. And that way is not necessarily switch and contain all the time, 100% as a fact of life. I also think there's the issue where Orlando has laid out this blueprint, but how many teams really have the size to execute it? Because it's not just can you stand up 1 through 5 defensively? This is one of the biggest, most physical lineups in the league. And you've seen the psychological
Al
effects.
Horford is mad about it.
This is what I'm talking about.
Gentleman Al Horford is like literally wagging his finger like, do not do that. That's not nice.
Al Horford is pissed. Jaylen Brown, I think, is clearly like a little rattled and also got a little unbalanced in his game at times in a way that really benefited Orlando. Kristaps Porzingis was clearly bothered by like all of these guys. And that's to say nothing about, Jason Tatum's wrist injury or like all the banging that happens in a series like this. What teams can execute that? Like, I think there are elements of the Knicks roster that can do that. Cat can do it, but can he do it without fouling? Jalen Brunson is a physical guard, at least in terms of the way he creates space on offense, but not necessarily in that way defensively. And I don't really...
as you're saying this, it also strikes me like Cat is not as nimble on his feet as Wendell Carter Jr.
No.
And Wendell Carter Jr. is not super nimble, but he's pretty nimble. And this scheme falls away if the contested layups are just dunks.
Yes.
And Jalen Brunson is not Corey Joseph in the sense that the Knicks need Jalen Brunson's offense on every single possession.
Absolutely.
The Magic don't really need Corey Joseph to do anything except hit a couple of open threes. So go ahead, exhaust yourself on defense. Jalen Brunson doesn't have that luxury. But it has been interesting. Other teams, I'm sure, are watching this happen to Boston. And I thought Boston in game 4, and I think was Stan Van Gundy on the call? I think he was noting this. They were busting out some more set plays, I think, to get people moving. They were rolling to the rim more with Porzingis and Kornet. I think to try to get the Magic to almost not think, like defend this like you normally would. There's a big guy rolling to the rim. What would you normally do? I normally rotate inside. Whereas when the game pauses and it becomes static, they can think and remember like, oh yeah, we're staying home. And I thought that was smart, but good. I mean, look, Orlando made them earn that road win.
Completely.
I mean, this was a nice homestand for the Magic and encouraging in the sense of Wagner is fighting through whatever is going on with his jump shot. The team doesn't have enough ammo offensively. We all knew that, but the defense has held up, and they were in these games they won one and they were in the other. I mean, this is like a little more juice, a little more talent. They're not that far from being a problematic playoff team.
As soon as you give Paolo and Franz any kind of space whatsoever, those dudes are going to cook. And frankly, they already are cooking in close quarters. It's just they have to dig a lot more out of the mud. But I want to really salute Wendell Carter, though, because I thought he had a really nice vindication series after he had a really tough time against the Cavs in last year's playoffs. Him hitting some threes, which is an important part of his skill set, but also standing up defensively in that way. Like, there have been points over the last 2 years where it wasn't clear if Goga Bitadze was just going to take his job, if Mo Wagner was just going to take his job. And Wendell Carter...
It's a lot of great backup center hair sitting on the Magic bench right now. Just
There's a lot going on.
Flowing locks.
Just perms for days potentially going on in Orlando. But I thought Wendell played a really nice series. And you see that throughout their lineup. It's just a team that right now is not positioned for offensive success. And we all know what the needs are. They're kind of right there front and center, and we'll see if the Magic go out and get them.
It's fun. Banchero is so interesting in this regard. He's kind of a Rorschach test for NBA fans because he's averaging 32 points per game, 44% shooting, 43% on threes, which means 44% on twos, and like not great on twos. And so you can see people nitpick his game a little bit, particularly people who lean towards more of an analytics heavy bent. I watch these games and I'm like, this dude is a freaking monster.
He's got it.
And like you said, when there's anybody who can help him, because you just don't see a lot of guys who within 45 seconds look awesome as a pick and roll ball handler and then look awesome as a screener, roller, finisher, and then look awesome as a post up isolation guy, and then look awesome in transition. And like he defends pretty well. He wants every bit of this. Like he doesn't care that they're overmatched. He feels like he's the best player on the floor. He's everything you want in a young rising franchise star. And yeah, his efficiency is imperfect. Some of that is on him. Some of that is on like the surrounding talent just isn't good enough. Like we're counting on Anthony Black a lot, and Gary Harris is like closing games for us. It's just not there. I love what I've seen from Paolo in this series.
Yeah, and Franz too. I think Franz's ability to drive and create and convert those like weird kind of hook shot kind of runners, like they carve out a lot of points from possessions that feel like they're going nowhere. And it happens because Paolo and Franz are the size that they are. And for that size, are some of the most skilled players in the world. As far as like guys who are 6'10 with a handle, that's a very short list to begin with. And you're adding in legitimate ability to finish through contact, legitimate ability to pull up and convert jumpers in Paolo's case, although maybe he errs a little bit sometimes too much in terms of the pulling up versus going all the way through. That's what happens when you don't have spacing. Like guys are going to settle for some things that are tough shots, but give them any runway. And I feel really confident in what the ultimate core of this Magic team can be.
I'll go one further. Franz Wagner maybe kind of has the yips right now on his jump shot and is like the greatest performer with the yips in the history of sports. The dude his jump shot is all messed up and he puts up 24, 7, and 6 and still takes 7 threes. Like there's something to be admired about a guy who's going through it in one phase of his game, is in his head a little bit, and is still battling out there for 40 minutes and putting up semi-efficient numbers for a team that needs anything they can get offensively.
And that's as he guards, oftentimes, Tatum or Brown. Like, I think ultimately, like the two-way ability of Franz combined with, as you said, Paolo is not a defensive, like an all-defense level contributor, but he is big and he is mobile and he can muck things up. And he is as much a part of how, like, if you are going to play this one-on-one contained style of defense against Boston, where are you shrinking the floor and where are you coming up for rebounds in that kind of alignment? And he's a part of both of those things.
Real quickly, I want to praise the Orlando Magic for something that happened in Game 3, which nobody ever does. They get the ball back with the lead, 95-93. I believe there were 28.1 seconds on the clock. The differential between the shot clock and the game clock was about 4 seconds. It was either 3.8 or 4.1. Then there's like a bizarre 8-second call, which they end up overturning, and the possession continues as if nothing ever happened. Inadvertent whistle, whoops. By the way, what's with the whistling in the crowd in Minnesota? Does someone have a whistle? It's fooling everybody. And so the Magic did what nobody does. The Celtics did not foul down 2 with a 3 to 4 second differential on the shot clock. I have always been of the school of thought, you have to foul because you're just not going to leave yourself with enough time. Coaches are divided on this. And one of the reasons that coaches are divided and will play for the stop, as Joe Mazzulla did, is that no team ever does what Orlando did, which is run the shot clock to 0.5 before you shoot. So the ball is in the air as the shot clock is expiring. One long rebound, one tip of the ball, and the game is over. Lo and behold, the rebound bounces really far out. The Celtics grab it. They call timeout. There probably should have been like 0.6 or 0.8 left on the clock. They gave him 0.3. All they have is a lob. Jamal Mosley, I don't know if that was scripted. I assume that it was. I assume that was the advice. That should be your default plan, is we are shooting. If you don't put pressure on us, if you don't trap us, if you don't do stuff to speed us up, we're shooting with 0 on the shot clock. Unbelievable job by the Magic.
Especially if you're the bigger team, especially if you're the one bullying these guys around. Like, give yourself a chance to get a fingertip on that ball and poke it away when they need everything to go right in order to just get a shot off.
And Joe Mazzulla was like, well, bad luck. It was a long rebound. Like, that's not bad luck. Like, a lot of rebounds of threes are long rebounds. That's like baked into the whole equation. I would have fouled there if I were him. I get why you play for the stop, because teams assume the Magic will just go early and shoot with 8 on the shot clock, and they didn't. Quick thoughts on Warriors-Rockets. The last Game 4 resumes tonight. Warriors win a Steph Curry masterpiece in Game 3 to go up 2-1. This is almost a must-win for the Rockets, despite the fact that they have home court advantage. It's very hard to see them beating the Warriors 3 times in a row, particularly if and when Jimmy Butler comes back. Warriors use a makeshift lineup with Post and Kuminga, end up finishing the game with a small ball lineup. I mean, the Rockets' offense is what it is. What are you looking for very quickly in Game 4 tonight?
Well, just to hit it, because we kind of zoomed past up top, you mentioned the Cavs were your team of the weekend. To me, it's the Warriors, and I think Steph could have been the MVP of the weekend easily, but Steph would be as deserving as anybody. He was sensational. I wanted to pick Golden State instead as my team of the weekend because of what we saw from the fourth quarter in particular. Without Jimmy Butler, playing off of Steph was just classic Warriors stuff. And everything starts with Curry, as it always does and has for, the better part of a decade, basically. But their closing kick was all about the synergy that makes that team go. And the highest scoring player in that fourth quarter was Gary Payton II. Like that's Warriors basketball in a nutshell. That does not happen by accident. It happens because you have Draymond connecting dots. It happens because Brandon Podziemski, who I will say has had quite a journey to get to this level of trust and respect from Steve Kerr. Buddy Hield punishing teams from the weak side. Like, this is strength in numbers, kumbaya basketball when the Warriors really, really need it. And for some reason, Houston always seems to bring this out of them. But even after all these years, it's such a sight to behold. And I love the fact that even though the roster turns over and refreshes, they just are finding guys who can play that way. Jonathan Kuminga is not one of those guys. And I don't know whether I expect him to start again, given the way he just kind of got ejected from this game over the course of it. But I know you are somewhat of a believer in the Jonathan Kuminga experience.
It's a tough subject for me.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to bring up sensitive points.
Can't win them all. I was also like a Jalen Green optimist, and that's not going great.
Well, he's had his moments. I mean, the Jalen Green roller coaster is what it is. The Kuminga part of this, I think he's just kind of getting replaced in the rotation. But you mentioned earlier, Golden State needs to get out of this series quickly. And I think I agree with that. Just the physicality of the Rockets, the athleticism of the Rockets. And beyond that, you look at what almost happened to Jalen Brunson, what did happen to Damian Lillard, what almost happened to Anthony Edwards. And you're like, one guy lands on Steph's leg wrong. And it doesn't matter if Jimmy Butler comes back at that point. And so you gotta take care of business. And I think the great luxury of winning this last game was now all of a sudden they are in such great position to do it, whether Jimmy plays or not.
I didn't have a ballot this year, but I said I would have put Steph first team All-NBA over Donovan Mitchell in the 5th spot. I feel even better. I mean, no slight to Donovan Mitchell is unbelievable. I have no problem if he makes first team. He's been first team on my ballot once before. Steph is just unbelievable. And he hit a 3 in Jalen Green's face when the score was 92-86 Warriors, where the Warriors ran a bunch of stuff. Rockets defense has been good this series. Even Jalen Green has been defending pretty decently this series. They're playing hard. Nothing happened. Steph Curry catches the ball at the top of the arc with Jalen Green right in his face. No dribble, no anything. No jab step, just rises up and hits a 3. And it's that's just so mean. That's so dispiriting. And like you said, the Rockets have seen this movie too many times. None of these Rockets, but the Rockets.
The building has seen it. They don't deserve that.
We all knew the Rockets offense was going to be tested in this series. It was their weak link. For them to put up their offensive rating is 103.6 points per 100 possessions. That's very bad. That would have been last in the NBA by a lot. For them to have an offensive rebounding rate approaching 40% and be that inefficient is kind of astonishing. Amen Thompson looks like a young guy who's a little bit lost in this series because of his lack of a jump shot, and they can put anybody they want on him, and they haven't figured that out yet. Not surprising. The Adams Şengün thing has been good, but they're clearly skittish playing it when Steph is on the floor.
Yeah.
And
I thought they played it a little less in game 3 as well. I haven't. It certainly felt that way.
They dialed it back, and defensively they've been good. That's great. They're still in the series. Offensively, what they have is just not good enough. And Sam Amick wrote the piece for The Athletic. We've all been talking about it all year. If that proves to be the case, and the offense isn't good enough, and they lose in the first round, there are 2 ways you can approach that decision. Your approach could be, we won 50 whatever games and there's number 2 seed. We're ready, but we just need a big boost on this end of the floor. We've mentioned some guys already. Or it could be hey, actually, we won 50 whatever games. We weren't the 2 seed by that much, and we kind of got exposed in the playoffs. Maybe we're a little further away than we thought. Let's take our time. I suspect they will go the former way and be aggressive if this series goes this way. But look, it's not like the Warriors are so consistent and so level-headed that we can just assume they win tonight. This could be 2-2 going back to Houston.
I mean, this game in itself was reliant on getting great Quentin Post defensive minutes, on some of these lineups getting papered together for Golden State in a way that historically over the course of the season, they just have not. Buddy Hield's stints have not always gone this well, but sometimes they do. And when they do, I think ultimately they have enough to draft off of Steph's influence and the chaos he creates to get some stuff going. I honestly, if it does go this way for Houston, I would encourage them to go that aggressive route. And I say that as I am generally a wait and see with young talent kind of guy. I want to see young teams come to fruition. I want to see them grow with and around each other and see how their skill sets can kind of manifest. I just don't see within this Houston roster a source of really organic shot creation growth. Some guys will get better at creating plays for others. Amen Thompson is never going to be a go-to one-shot killer, I don't think. I mean, who knows? That guy's capable of incredible things. I want to put that as an extreme improbability. And I say that as someone who loves every other part of his game. And Jalen Green is so up and down that I don't think he's ever going to like regularize in a way that's going to be that for you. And so then you're left with Alperen Şengün doing what he can against the matchups that are advantageous for him. A lot of Fred VanVleet desperation shots, to say nothing of the fact that he's already at an age where you're not expecting him to make any dramatic changes to his game. And so where's it going to come from? Are you going to throw Cam Whitmore into the rotation, expect him to save your franchise? Like, you are going to have to make a move for the sort of shot creator that all of these other teams have. It doesn't have to be Steph Curry. Like, Detroit has Cade Cunningham, and that's getting them through these games in a really competitive way. Like, there's lots of ways to do it.
I'm glad you brought up Cade. I love Cade. I had Cade on my podcast 2 years ago. I've always been high on Cade. Never sold my Cade stock. I couldn't believe that people could watch him play and do the thing we do with young players. Like, oh, he's inefficient. He doesn't get to the line. Can you give him a little time?
Yeah.
Do you see? You have to watch. And not like we're going to be right all the time, but you could see enough 8-minute slices of bad Pistons games where you'd be like, oh, there's something Luka-light here, the way he manipulates space in the paint. Jalen Green's passing is just so disappointing to me that it hasn't evolved at all, to the point that when he hits Şengün with a good pocket pass, you're like, can you just do that? Like, just make that pass? And even so, a sustained diet of Alperen Şengün flamingo shots in the pick and roll is just not, it's not going to cut it.
I enjoy it, though, personally. I like watching it.
Love the flamingo shots.
Yeah.
And just to wrap up my old man yelling at cloud segment of the podcast.
Please.
You can't be a serious team and go 41 of 64 on free throws in a playoff series. They're shooting 64% on free throws. Şengün was 1 of 6. Like, you're just handing teams minutes and quarters and games. But maybe they'll respond tonight and give us another. Can we have more than 1 2-2 series? If we get through this 4 games thing, I mean, the Cleveland Miami thing is over.
Yes.
If we get, that's the other game tonight. We only get 1 2-2 first round series. That's good for like getting the games over with and getting to the real stuff. But it's like, can we get a little excitement?
I was hoping this first round would have some, at least in the West, would have some real stuff. And it's had it. It's just, can it hold on to it, right? Like, can the Lakers manage to put enough together to make that an actual series after going down 3-1? Can the Rockets, grind the Warriors to enough of a halt to have their worst instincts come to bear? Like, as you mentioned, Golden State is not opposed to shooting itself in the foot. These guys will throw the ball around. They will commit enough turnovers to lose if you push them to do so. You just got to give them like a little more of a nudge than they've been able to do.
Rob Mahoney, this is a thrill. We've known each other a while, had dinner during the finals. We can trace our NBA lineage to the Point Forward blog on SI.com. RIP. I was the originator of it. You and Ben Golliver took over for me and made it even better. And now I don't know what's going on. It's gone. It's long gone.
Long gone.
I am a regular reader, and the group chat with you and Justin Verrier talking about gardening in Portland for the first 5 minutes of every podcast, or chicken Alfredo last week. There was a long pasta discussion, and Waz just throwing bombs left and right in between cryptic comments about his nightlife. An absolute great listen. It's gotten me through a lot of rides on the Peloton. It's a thrill to be a teammate of yours and to actually talk some hoops with you. And I look forward to doing it again.
That's incredibly kind. Thanks so much for having me, Zach.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Rob. Thanks to Jesse on the production. We'll see you later this week, Thursday morning. Whatever the hell has happened in the NBA, this has been such a wild week. Who knows what'll be going on? Maybe talk about round 2 a little bit. Thanks for listening to the Zach Lowe Show. Must be 21 and over and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and over and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.